a close eye on Fabio Di Giannantonio for very good reason. If you've been with us throughout the whole of our race build-up, well, Di Giannantonio and his VR46 Ducati crew, they have been frantically working on his GP25 after he identified an issue. There was a warning light came up on his dashboard on the sighting lap, and that has seen doubts about Fabio Di Giannantonio ahead of this Grand Prix. Clearly they're warming up the second bike. I think that's in anticipation of whether he is ready or wants to or requires to come into pit lane to swap bikes.
Yeah, Fabio Di Giannantonio, I would assume, hasn't already made that decision before he left the grid. The team will have obviously given him the option. If you go to the grid, then you have to stick with the bike that you're on. But if you do not think that this bike is good to go, come straight up pit lane. Yeah. He is coming up pit lane.
He put his left leg out there. He was signalling to the riders behind him. He dropped all the way to the back of the field. So this is massive pre-race drama as far as Pertamina Enduro VR46 Racing are concerned. And poor old Fabio Di Giannantonio, he is going to hop onto the second bike. He's going to start this Grand Prix of Hungary from pit lane. We have a vacant space then now on the front row, sadly missing Di Giannantonio, who should have been starting in P3.
One bike straight onto the other. He will have to wait for a green light at the end of pit lane before he can go.
We've got the green flag clearing at the back then. Pre-race drama here in Hungary. Di Giannantonio off the front row. But we're lights out and racing then here in MotoGP in Hungary for the first time in 33 years. Bezzecchi is going to try and be aggressive on the inside of Marquez into that first corner. They all concertina up. Are they all safely through? There's a bit of bumping and barging, but they have all made it safely through. And Bez and Mark,
right into it.
Big contact there. Bezzecchi had snatched the lead on that tight run through turn 2. There's contact there between 72 and 93.
Marquez back to third place then, so we do have a VR46 Ducati in second place, but it is Frankie Morbidelli, then it is Marquez in third. Morbidelli fourth, but look at the KTMs attacking. Acosta and Bastianini going either side of Marini.
It was aggressive early on by Bastianini. So Marquez, he made the dream start, didn't he, in the sprint? Yes, they avoided all the early trouble going through turn 1. He made a really good start, though, again here today. But he's back in third place after the early rub with Bez.
Pecco Bagnaia is up to 7th place already, although that might become 8th now. Here comes Aldeguer up the inside, but Marco Bezzecchi, if you want an opportunity to win this Hungarian Grand Prix, get your head down and go for it, because he's got an advantage, and he's got Frankie Morbidelli between himself and Marquez.
Straight away as well. Jorge Martin's been dynamite off the line. He's already up inside the top 10 as well. A 9th place halfway around this opening lap. Bastianini's gone down, and that was awful. You could see him look to his left-hand side. He knew he was going to come careering back onto the racing line. He had his heart in his mouth. And of course, the bad news for Enea is he's not going to serve the double on that penalty unless he can remount, which will then carry on over into the Catalan Grand Prix.
Yeah, he's got to get up and running and just serve those penalties, so he's out of the way. Martin's also passed Bagnaia. Of course, they were dodging Bastianini's KTM, but Bezzecchi's lead is 0.4 of a second over Morbidelli. Marquez third, and what a start for Pedro Acosta, just what he would have hoped for on this first lap. Acosta already up into P4.
That was a scary moment, wasn't it, for Bastianini and all those riders who somehow threaded their bikes through the eye of a needle.
Someone's up to Alex Marquez. Alex Marquez is on the floor. He's gone down at turn 1. Of course, he's also got a point. Served a penalty off the grid. And of course, having made no real progress on that first lap, he was still back in 13th. Alex Marquez down at turn 1.
Into the first corner he goes, didn't come out the other side of it. Marquez, MotoGP World Champion in Misano. Anybody that's going to be potentially what we could be facing in just a couple of rounds' time. Let's go down to Jack for a Bez update.
Yeah, importantly, the team told him plus 0.5 Morbidelli, so Bezzecchi knows that Marquez isn't behind him, and he's got a massive opportunity here if he can get into his rhythm early.
Yeah, motor on, that's the message clearly then to Bez. Thanks very much, Jack. Further down the field, we've got Marini on course for back-to-back top sixes. Fabio Quartararo, of course, who has to serve a long lap penalty. And Bastianini, I've not seen anything that notifies that he has rejoined this Grand Prix, so a real tough weekend for the beast. Out on the first lap of the sprint and slamming into the back of Johan Zarco, and out on the first lap of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, he didn't come round at the end of the first lap. The last rider that did come round, of course, is Fabio Di Giannantonio, and poor Digia. He is 10 seconds off the back of the field and 15 off the race lead.
This is going to be The early contact involving Marco Bezzecchi and the pole starter Marc Marquez on board with the 72 fully then of Bez. Morbidelli was aggressive on the inside, wasn't he? That's pushed Acosta wide, and then already Bezzecchi got his way through, hadn't he, on Marc, and then Marc just ploughed into the back of the factory Aprilia. And we're on board now with Morbidelli.
Oh, no gap there, Marc. You're not going to get through the inside of there, and in the end it cost him second place to Frankie Morbidelli. I'm surprised that Marc Marquez puts his nose in that kind of position, given the pace we know he has.
Yeah, Marini had to really check up directly behind the 93 bike as well. So Bez with Morbidelli acting as a bit of a barrier at the moment between him and Marc Marquez, and as Jack said, the team have already instructed Bez to crack on here, we'll try and make an early break, and he's doing it. A 1:38.484 is the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far, about a tenth quicker than Morbidelli in second, 3/10 faster than Marc.
It's 8/10 of a second already through the next sector. Martin coming through on Luca Marini. That is for 6th place. Jorge Martin has already gained 10 places, and we're only halfway around the 3rd lap.
Nobody told Jorge Martin that this Balaton Park circuit was notoriously hard to overtake on. This has been absolutely sensational work early on by Martin, already up into the top 6, streaking away quickly from Marini behind him. I don't know how much drama Joan Mir had early on with some of the probably with the Bastianini incident on lap 1, because Mir's down in 16th place at the moment. He lost a whole bunch of places. 6 in the sprint yesterday was Mir.
Alex Marquez did pick his bike up and continue just to try and score some points later on, as Frankie Morbidelli, rear tyre skipping out, stepping up off the ground as he tries to get his 21 bike stopped into turn 1. And he at the moment, of course, is racing for himself, but at the moment he's the best friend of Marco Bezzecchi.
Successive best laps of the Grand Prix so far for Bez, down now to a 1:38.190. I suppose the only sort of question mark, a big question mark, that we might be posing as far as Bez is concerned later in this Grand Prix is how much early on, with this early onslaught, is he going to take potentially out of his soft rear tyre? The only rider right now in the top 4 that is not on the soft rear is World Championship leader Marc Marquez, and that surely will come to Marc and be a big advantage for him in the second half, latter stages of this Grand Prix.
Yellow flags have come out again. I think it's Ralph Fernandez's name that has just disappeared down the left-hand side of the screen. It's not been a great weekend in truth for the Trackhouse team. Joan Mir is down with Ralph Fernandez, so both riders down, and let's hope that Joan Mir hasn't been involved in another incident that wasn't his fault. Quartararo through for the long lap penalty. Bagnaia and amongst others go through, and Quartararo rejoins up behind Jack Miller on the Pramac Yamaha, so that is 13th place.
He's like a trouble magnet, isn't he, poor old Joan Mir? Was it his fault? Was it Fernandez's fault? Were they down in a separate instance? Ralph Fernandez is trying to, well, he has remounted the Trackhouse Aprilia. Let's have a look at this one further back in the field.
Just separate accidents, don't they? They both go down together at the same corner, so certainly no one's fault but each other's for having their own accidents. You can see Mir already ready to thump the tarmac. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix for Marco Bezzecchi. 1:38.095. He's 3/10 quicker than Morbidelli, and the gap to Marc Marquez from Bez, 1.2 seconds.
3 on the spin now for Bez in terms of fastest laps of this Grand Prix. He really is trying to make hay while the sun shining on that soft rear tyre, isn't he, just to try and build a gap that he can then potentially stage manage in the second half of this Grand Prix. I don't think Marc's going to be panicking just at this stage. He will know, he will have been told by his Ducati crew that you're the only one at the moment that's on that medium rear tyre. Just let it come to you. Let's not take any risks early on. Just wait for that medium rear tyre to get up to temperature. Those guys that are pushing on the soft potentially may encounter some late grip issues. That's what he's going to be banking on. But first and foremost, though, he's going to find a way through on Morbidelli, and right on cue he does. Going into 8 and 9 then, and Marc Marquez then. And now he does start to think about honing in on Bezzecchi. Marc up to second.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't in the realms of panicking just yet, but a move he had to get done. He couldn't stay behind Morbidelli's Ducati for much longer if he could help it. So Marco Bezzecchi's initial breathing space amounted to around about 1.1 seconds over Marc Marquez, and Bez will now be getting the instruction on his pit board and on his dash. It's now 93 behind you.
Yeah, a sight that he's seen on a regular basis of late, hasn't he? Marco Bezzecchi plus 0.93. Ralph Fernandez has pitted on the track out of brilliant. Likewise, Joan Mir, so they were both able to remount after their separate crashes on the last lap. A lot of stones on the track there, aren't they, as they came through turn 8 and 9. And as soon as Marquez has worked his way through on Frankie Morbidelli, with clear air to work with ahead of him, a bit of open real estate ahead to Bezzecchi, a 1:37.994. He's dropped the pace instantly, in a flash. Mark finds the first 1:37 in this Grand Prix, wasting precious little time.
Down at turn 1 in
37
4 laps ago, now
wasting
7th place
from Bez.
Look at the field already.
1:30.
Marquez, a come on.
Completely dispensed with Morbidelli. Morbidelli's got bigger issues. It's coming from Pedro Acosta, who's trying to find a way through here into 8 and 9. Morbidelli just keeps the door slammed firmly shut. But this has been another excellent ride so far from Acosta. He's got so much time on his hands here, 20 and a half laps to go. He admitted himself yesterday he ran out of a little bit more caution as he tries to get through on Morbidelli.
Acosta near enough matched Marc Marquez's lap time last time around. He did a 38.0, only half a tenth slower than Marc Marquez went, which is kind of backing up the theory we had on Friday, wasn't it? That it was Acosta with the pace to challenge Marc Marquez this weekend. So Acosta will now be wanting to try and get past Morbidelli quickly and hope that by the time he gets there, Bezzecchi is still holding Marc Marquez back.
Martin still in a stunning 6th place, the #1 liveried factory Aprilia. Marquez now getting quicker and quicker and quicker. 37.9 on lap 5, a 37.8 now on lap 6, and he's just gobbling up the ground to Bezzecchi directly ahead of him. Look at this now. What was an advantage that Bez had of over a second when Mark forced his way through on Morbidelli into second, that has just completely gone in the space of 2 laps.
We did see the briefest view there of Enea Bastianini. He has actually gone out back on track again, and I assume that is purely to serve his double long lap penalty. He does not want to have to carry that over to Barcelona in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, smart.